The Persona 3 remake just got announced, and to be completely honest, I don't know how to feel. For the sake of transparency, Persona 3 is one of my favorite games of all time, definitely somewhere within the top 3. So when I heard there was a remake coming, I actually felt a tinge of excitement. In the past, I often wondered what a Persona 3 remake would look like, and I could be quoted as asking for one to be made, but the years have piled on me, and bad remake after mediocre remake has been made, and it has left a sour taste in my mouth when it comes to remakes. Will it or will it not be good? Well, I hope to come to a satisfying conclusion by the end of the video. I want to ask you, why remake Persona 3? Yes, I know the real answer is money. There's a lot of people who hold this game near and dear to their heart, and the Persona IP is doing better than it's ever been. When viewed through that lens, it's a no-brainer. However, I want to ask from an artistic lens, why remake Persona 3? Let's start with the most important case for a remake, the gameplay. Is the gameplay of Persona 3 so dated that a remake can be justified or seen as a logical conclusion? Persona 3 is a turn-based RPG, and if we're all being completely honest with ourselves, the genre has not changed much at all since its inception. In Final Fantasy VII, you choose from a list of attacks for your character to execute. They execute it, and then the enemy gets a chance to do the same thing. There are exceptions to the rule, definitely, but the core gameplay of these titles has not changed in 30 years or more, and so few titles go the extra mile to expand upon these mechanics. Persona 4 came out in 2008, Persona 5 came out in 2016, and these games play identically, or at the very least there's not a big enough change in combat aside from added elements for attack. Notice how I mentioned Persona 4 and 5 though, because those games offer a massive gameplay advantage over the original release of Persona 3. In Persona 3, you are only able to control your player's character actions. Sure, you can give the other characters guidelines to follow, but they are still left up to the computer's interpretations of what you want them to do. This had to have been infuriating for some, and probably led to a few undeserved deaths. My best friend got to the final phase of the final boss just for one of his characters to get charmed and heal the boss, costing him the entire final stretch of the game. However, there was an updated release of Persona 3 called Persona 3 Portable that came with a female player character and the ability to fully control your party members during combat. The PSP isn't as powerful as the PS2 though, so the cutscenes had to be removed, and instead of walking around the overworld as your player character, you kind of point and click through the city to get to where you want to go. Of course, if you're part of the PC Master Race, you could just emulate Persona 3 and install the mod that allows you to control your party members. But for the sake of intellectual honesty, I do think that having a complete Persona 3 experience with every post-release add-on, controllable characters, and being able to legally play it all on modern hardware would be enough of a reason to double dip and attract new players to Persona 3. At the same time, like I said before, these kind of games haven't changed much in the combat area in years. I want you to truly ask yourself, do any of you love Persona 3 for the combat? I know I don't. I'm not a big fan of the idea of games as art. Usually people want games to be more artsy just because they want to make them reflect the structure, writing, and values of cinema, only because they want their hobby that's usually reserved for young children to be taken more seriously. I don't care what other people think of my hobby, that's dumb. But if I'm being honest, I think that Persona 3 is one of the best arguments as far as having games be considered pieces of art. Because every part of the game works to provide a substantial experience that you can't get anywhere else. I don't want to go into too much, because I don't want to spoil anything for newcomers. This game is absolutely amazing. But Persona 3 has a message, and its gameplay, music, characters, and plot all play a part in making sure this game's style and substance is felt. The question I want to ask is, will the developers be able to recapture the feel or the heart of Persona 3? Usually when a remake like this happens, it's outsourced to another development company. Will they even understand what made Persona 3 so memorable in the first place? Hell, even if it's the same people, you've seen many cases of developers trying to improve upon their work just to end up making it worse.
Nintendo's design process is to start with the basic character movements and actions, and then build the actual game world last. In that sense, you could say that the world is an extension of your character itself, since it's been designed as a sort of playground for their specific movements and abilities. In the original, these lily pads were sized and spaced according to Link's momentum and acceleration. This is a problem in Majora's Mask 3D because it changes those traits, making Link's acceleration slower with a laggy startup. It's subtle, but it's enough to break Link's relationship with the environment. Pads that used to be simple to reach now require Link to run from the very farthest edge, forcing players to stop and reposition from pad to pad. If the player falls in the water while leaving this area, they'll be started on a ledge where they can't even reach the first pad or move backwards. The player will have to awkwardly run along the mouth of the cave in order to overcome the broken game design and escape.
With something as subjective as art, I'm sure there are no right or wrong answers, but if you change too little, what is the point of a remake? And if you change too much, then could it even be called Persona 3? And this is my biggest fear when it comes to the remake, because while yes, it seems that they are not using pre-rendered cutscenes and have gone down the road less traveled and opted to use in-game graphics, I commend them for this. It's a good sign for the amount of care that's being put into the remake. But Persona 3's cutscenes are beloved by the fans. They are very stylized in a anime-esque style that contribute heavily to the art style of the overall game. But I'm willing to admit that this game just may not be made for someone like me. The most important question as far as creating a product will always be, who is this for? Is it for the fans? Is it to attract newcomers? The answer is almost always both. But if that's the case, you need to retain the original's heart, for lack of a better word, while also delivering a fresh enough experience to keep old players interested in another romp in one of their favorite games. After playing Persona 5, I just don't trust Atlus to give me a game that isn't style over substance. And if you want a video about all of my thoughts on the disappointing aspects of Persona 3, And if you want a video with all of my thoughts on the disappointing aspects of Persona 5, let me know in the comments and subscribe. Persona 3 Reload looks promising. I just hope that newcomers won't play this game instead of checking out what came before.
Just